Welcome to Soapbox Game Mechanics, the fastest game jam in town. Today, here, right now, with you, with me, with us, with zero prep, we are going to design and playtest a tabletop game right here live based off prompts that you have submitted. And if you're saying like, "Oh, Anne, I didn't hear the call out. When was I supposed to submit prompts?" Well, my friend, if you want to submit prompts for the next episode, please subscribe on our Patreon, exclamation Patreon in chat. Or if you're watching this later, look at the description. That is, you will not only get to submit the prompts that we will design off of, you'll also get a copy of all the games we make here. So what a steal of a deal. And also, it makes you 10% sexier. That's true. Take it to the bank. My name is Anne. I'm a TTRPG creator, GM, and actual play producer, and not at all a game designer. But I will be your spark on this ramshackle journey. And now I'm going to hand it over to Graham, my co-host, and other brain cell Graham.
Hi, everybody. I'm Graham Gens. I use he and they pronouns. I'm a facilitator, game designer, and occasionally a puppet. I am your wrench because although Anne claims they are not a game designer, we are going to change that because we have a wonderful guest. The three of us are going to take one of these prompts. We're going to talk about it. We're going to write stuff down. Then we're going to play it and then give just a tiny bit of feedback and or things to cut out right at the end, all in 90 minutes. It's going to be a full meal of game design. We're here to demystify the process. We want it to be accessible. We want everyone to be these capital D designers. That's very important for everybody around. The barrier to entry is low, and I want everyone to be involved. So, that said, we have a wonderful guest today. Our guest uses they and he pronouns and is a disabled queer game designer, historically working under Thoughty and Daedalum AP. They are a fluid, non-binary-masc artist, leadership educator, leading with class, and creator of the Script Change RPG Toolbox. Beyond their work on the Thoughty blog, they designed Turn, a tabletop RPG, The Man and the Stag, and the Let Me Take a Selfie and Of the Woods, Lonely Games of Imagination Game Collections. They also worked on Firefly RPG, Smuggler's Guide, Bubblegumshoe, and other freelance projects. They could be found at breedbo.com/thoughty, kofi.com/thoughty, and thoughty.itch.io, all of which will be dropped in the description. Welcome to Beau Jágr Sheldon. How are you, Beau?
I'm here.
Ain't that the way? Ain't that the freaking way?
It's been a while since I heard my bio read aloud. Thank you very much. You did a great job, and you pronounced everything correctly. So
Yeah, that's always the pressure, the idea. But you know what? I want it to be as free and easy and flowing as possible. There's always this kind of like funny thing about, okay, I must now present myself, especially in the game world and all these other things. We're out here being social. The things we make are social, but oftentimes we don't really want that. And so it's such a lovely bio, and I really want it to be this step forward so that you can enter into this space with all of us and share in it. I'm so happy you're here.
thank you so much for having me.
So, is there anything else, Anne, that you feel on front of mind that you would like to say? A ghost, far beyond, or Beau? Anything else on this lovely bio that I didn't hit?
The only thing that I would have to say is actually that game design is for everyone. And if you're listening along to us doing this and you think you have a better idea, share it with us. I think that that would be lovely to hear. And it's always great to do hacks of your own just from listening and learning on your own. So please do. That's what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, this whole thing is an elaborate ruse to get cool game design folk to hang out with me and teach me how to do it. And you know what? Me and you, chat, we're on this together.
Everyone,
I,
chat. You can come onto the Patreon, give us some prompts. We have an ever-growing list of absurd prompts. We've picked 3, and Beau here is going to pick which of these is going to be our title. So, Anne, if you would be, these are grand surprises. Remember, prep is death. The more you prep, the less you listen to your players. We're going to listen to each other, and game design is for everyone. So we're going to do it with everyone right now. Anne, are you ready to unveil our 3
okay.
titles? And Beau, just kind of let it filter through your mind, these ideas about what they're going to be. We're going to do some free association with these things.
I've gone and harvested these fresh from the fields, plucked, and I got I think I got like quite a wide variety here, depending on what the vibe is. Starting in hot, dramatic. The first prompt is under the sign of the dying star.
Under the sign of the dying star.
Ooh,
Okay. All right. All
evocative,
right.
sexy. Number two, almost as dramatic. Who's your haberdasher?
Okay. Great.
A haberdasher, of course, being a hat maker. And then number three, dirty deleting.
Dirty deleting. I do love some alliteration. So, Beau, what I offer is for you to just think out loud, essentially. What is it of the dying star? What's the full thing?
Under the sign of the dying star.
What does your mind take with you with this title, these words?
So I'm a big space nerd. I like space. I just am not smart about it. I just like the pretty parts. Um, so for me, like especially with my history of largely working in like fantastical and fictional cryptid related stuff, that makes me think of like a lot of different possibilities for exploring horror themes or themes of romantic fantasy and those kinds of elements. Like it's got a really broad palette to work with of different things we could do.
Yeah, it's got the sign, it's got the dying star, all of which are kind of have this really strong emotional texture. And
Hmm.
for me, I want them like people asking more, like, what does that mean? And then you then are inspired. You find this point of inspiration to be riffing
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, it feels like you could build a lot out of it. Like I'm literally wearing like a bunch of stuff with stars on it right now and doing like role
Yeah.
previews. So, but I think that one has like a lot of ways to go with it. So it has some flexibility. The haberdasher one sounds fun, but it does seem like it would lean towards zany,
Hmm.
and that's something with mechanics, especially trying to make sure that they make sense whenever things are zany can be a challenge, but is worth exploring for sure. And dirty deleting just really sounds like something that people would do in a social media environment or trying to hide their trail.
Mm.
It could be something like spies, even trying to like sneak into government labs and delete secrets or student loan charges. I don't know, any number of
I like
things.
that. It has a range, right? Like
Hmm.
it's anything from like mundane, but then also you could raise the stakes and have it in kind of genre fiction, or even
Exactly.
both. Like oh, we're spies, but they care about social media like as much as somebody who the stakes are not so high for. Um,
Right.
which haberdasher like demands that kind of.
Hmm.
Haberdasher is a silly word, right?
Yeah, it's a very silly word.
It's a very silly word.
It's a
Um,
delightful word. Okay, my first thought, under the sign of the dying star is giving I'm with you because I'm a big Trekkie, brand new Trekkie. Hi, thank you all for
Yay! Let's
accepting me.
go. The cult.
But it is
Good
my entire
rose.
personality now. So I'm
Good.
like, and I love the I'm like, I like the melodrama side of it. I also like things like under the sign of the dying star, it's giving apocalypse. And
Hmm.
I think like a little play to lose moment, cute, right? A little like, "Oh my god, we're all dying. Why don't we kiss?" moment. Like,
Sure, sure, sure.
sorry, that's where my head goes. Who's your haberdasher? A jaunty hat.
Just like
And
just like you're the hat?
I don't know, maybe it's a hat designing game. This sounds very fun to me actually, but I'm a zany little fuck. So maybe there. Dirty deleting, I literally thought it was gonna just be like, like I was thinking like, like a texting game or something like that. I
Mhm.
like the whole like spy, like deleting data, like that's sick
Yeah.
as hell. I like that. That's really fun. These are all delightful. I think I do think the haberdasher is losing, although this hat could be real cute.
It
Like,
could be very
just
cute.
imagine the cutest hat.
I
I
mean, any
actually I saw some very fantastic hats whenever I was at the Renaissance Festival recently. And so like I do get the appeal of very weird and cool hats because I saw like a toadstool hat and I saw one that had like flowers all over it that was
Mhm.
felted and all that stuff. Very, very rad. For me, like the haberdasher one to get like to the more like fictionally exploring stuff for it, I could see it being a like literally who created your identity as a superhero. Like
Mm.
imagine like Victorian era superheroes kind of
Sure, sure,
thing.
sure.
So like who helps you like get your look together and then like go out to be a superhero in that era, right? Because
That's fucking
haberdashers were kind of a
cool.
big deal.
Yeah, the question part for me is the most interesting part. It's true. So like Surface level, haberdasher, silly word. And then for me, the next thing I notice is that it's a question, and it's the like, who's your whatever, right? Like this is
Mm-hmm.
somebody that you're seeing and you're inspired by their drip, and you're like, who's your haberdasher? Like you're intrigued already. And so the idea would be like building on that intrigue, and like
Yeah.
whatever level of zaniness would be. So if you're like Victorian superheroes, right? Like you could really balance the kind of silliness.
Yeah.
Superheroes inherently pretty silly, even if you push all the way and you're like gritty, whatever. And then Victorian can be as, oh, we have frocks, or as like as separated from our current time and place. Like who doesn't want to do that? So that
Yeah.
offers a lot too. Um, okay, so with all of these things bubbling around, we have our three things. Beau, where are you leaning for? Which of these three things would you like to just really dive into with Anne and I?
It's so hard because I do love the idea of doing like superheroes trying to figure out where their powers came from in the Victorian era, who have like fancy hats that help give them their powers. That sounds fantastic and amazing. But I also don't know enough about the Victorian era history to even talk shit about it, let alone talk sensibly about it. And so
Totally fine. We can make it up, or one of us can pretend that's what. There's three of us. We can
I know
absolutely play on
things.
stereotypes.
but
And knows a ton about Victorian stuff, and definitely won't
I've
contradict
seen
me.
Bridgerton. That's accurate, right?
Great, that's it, right?
but like I do like the idea of the underdying star because we could do
Mm-hmm.
something like a rising community of vampires in a dying human world while
Mm-hmm.
their sun is dying, kind of thing. Like think like 30 Days of Night escalated to like the planet
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing. That
All
sounds like
right.
super exciting to me, and I think that like that may be like pretty quick to bang out, like because it's a pretty like simple concept, but you could do a lot with it, like with simple like social mechanics basically, like and stuff like that. So I think it could be an easy build. Whereas with the superheroes, I'm like, I want complex character sheets because my pain in the ass. But I grew up playing Shadowrun, can't you tell? But like I think that Underdying Star has like the most capacity for like a quick and like really hitting the notes kind of feel, if that makes sense.
Well, don't worry about quick, but what I'm interested in is what is immediately the most exciting, right? Like what's going to give us
Yeah.
energy and momentum. But it does sound like you've answered that question,
I think
which
that's the
is,
one that's most exciting because I think there's so many
yeah.
possibilities and like that it makes me think of like things that you could do pretty fast, which is nice.
Okay,
Okay.
so that means the three of us will be working on a game called Under the Sign of the Dying Star. Anybody who had that on your bingo, check it off now. And so, just from that last riff, I heard you talking about. Did you say vampires, or was that just
Yeah.
like connecting thematically to the Dying Star, 30 Days of Night stuff? Like,
So like the thing that made me think of like the sign of the dying star sounds like a sigil or something that people
mm-hmm.
wear to like be a moniker of who they stand for or what they represent. And
Mm.
dying stars often are traditionally dying suns. And what happens when a sun dies? The darkness comes. And then it made me think
Mm.
of 30 Days of Night, which is one of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
And the vampires being like, ah, it's dark here for like a really long time, guys. Let's chow down. And I love it. So like it definitely like appeals to me a lot, but I am totally flexible on the possibilities. So
All right. That all sounds great. There's a lot of kind of embedded world building. Um, and you were talking about, remind me where you were riffing on initially. It was like the romance stuff and the
I
world's
I keep
apocalyptic.
trying
Let's
to make them
kiss.
kiss.
Right.
You
Okay.
guys can stop me. I just think that like okay, in my mind, what you're saying is it's a world with a dying star. Okay? So literally sun's going out. The
mhm.
vampires are here. They've shown up. They're space vampires. Okay? They're like they showed up. We rolled in. You've already made this planet. It's sick. All your infrastructure's here, and you're all gonna die. So we're just showed up a little early. I had a schedule. But what if they're hot? And like and like what if they have to like so there's this moment where in evolution there's this okay because I was reading about botanical speciation today, don't worry about it, but there's this moment at the margins where there are two basically variants of something that exists simultaneously and then one wins out. And when we look at the fossil record, it looks like a jump in evolution, but really there was this kind of undocumented moment at the margins where both existed. And what if that's where the story takes place? It's that moment of the margins, that little bit
Oh
of
yeah.
crossover where the vampires are
Yes.
here, space vampires are here, the humans are here, and they're forming relationships with each other, and whatever that is, if it's like tension or like a little bit sexy, I don't know.
I mean, people didn't think that Neanderthal and humans and Denisovans ever had relations, but we know that they fucked a lot. And I think that it is totally viable that the star-crossed lovers in
Hey,
this second
dying
card,
star. Dying star
right?
cross lovers. I'm putting that here. I'm taking notes. Dying star cross lovers. Continue.
I would love to see, like, you know, there's humans who are the race that is dying and trying to like see if they can become vampires or interbreed with the vampires to like further their species. And like, what does that look like in actually playing out in a game? Like, is this a like social negotiation thing to see who can get like agreements to move forward, or is this like we literally have to fight to be loved and to have love and to live, right?
I definitely think we fight to be loved, and I also think they're called spampires.
Because they're space vampires?
Ah!
I love it.
Oh, I deleted my beautiful note. Okay.
Spampires.
All right. Space vampires. Okay. Does the story start when the space vampires arrive?
It's a really good question. Based on your thoughts about evolution and kind of this like grand scale of time, it makes me think that whatever mechanics we choose to use or the scope of the narrative will be pretty unfettered by like kind of scene to scene stuff. It seems like it's very broad. Like we're telling stories of like generations, maybe in snapshots. But the idea is if we're talking about the fate of families and species and existence, like I'm really seeing a broader scope in terms of how we choose to tell it. We're like, oh, this happens, you know, maybe a conclusion of that. And then we zoom in to see if like people kiss or not. And then we zoom back out again. But again, like this evolutionary time scale, I think is kind of interesting.
Attention, Soapbox. You have been going for 15 minutes.
Oh,
Thank
God.
you, Vampire.
It reminds me of like Microscope, the game that where like you're kind of like looking down, and there was one that was like you would go in and out in the different eras, and I am just failing completely to remember. I remember playtesting it way back in the day, but like the idea of having like the big outer scenes and like the big narratives and stuff, and having mechanics to kind of structure that and like tell the story, and then zooming in to have the actual interactions where the decisions are made or the moments are made, sounds really like intimate making for those kinds of parts, but still gives you like the big world building like structure and stuff of like the global events versus the intimate individual events. And I think those could be really fun to jump in and out of.
Yeah, I like the idea of building global stakes or family stakes or whatnot, because that's kind of what these stories, these like, you know, dying star-crossed level stories are about. You know, the stakes are so high in a social way. Like we're going to lose everything, and now it's like species are going to lose everything or something, right? So if we can have a thing where we're world building, and then do they kiss or not decides the fate of a huge amount of stuff. Well, now we're cooking. Well, now that's like, it's not just, you know, spampires. There's a lot of kind of tension, because that's what you want in your like vampire, you know, repressed gothic romance stories. Like it's all under the surface. So you got to build that surface so that we can then play the fun part on the top.
I love the do they kiss or not, because it makes me think of like the vampire's kiss language that they use talking about vampires. And the idea of someone being like kissed by the vampire being like a decision for like an actual like treaty or something, like like furthering of the story. That sounds like really good. That's a very good framing to set up, Graham. I love that.
Yeah, kiss vampire is like a treaty.
God, you have unfortunately now gotten to one of my special interests, which is horror literature, and specifically the social role of the vampire and how every generation has its own vampire based off the mores of that thing, the thing that they find like challenging and upsetting. And it's been sexuality for a long time. Hey Chad, for a while it was like the undead and disease. And then they were like, oh,
Mhm.
mostly we're just scared of fucking. So
Mhm.
that's kind of what it was like. And they're like, oh, and they're horny. And then we all made them queer coded. I wonder why. and then like it just kind of going with that. So I like the idea that having this vampire, which is something that's always supposed to represent like the kind of like the dark side of humanity, like the dark side of the moon, the dying of our star, like this
Mm-hmm.
inversion of the
Yeah.
social values, I think is sexy as hell. They definitely should kiss.
But
And
if
I
they do kiss, maybe a whole family line will be destroyed, or maybe like a kingdom will fall.
That makes
Or
it
maybe it'll be
hotter.
saved.
We don't know. We have to play to find out. Um, yeah, do you want to do a brief sidebar and discuss whether or not it's in the text ultimately? If we personally want to talk about what we think the Spampires, the metaphor is, or is it just like our filtered cultural lens, right? Like you're right, like Nosferatu vampires are like, oh, it's decay, and then Victorian kind of vampires is like it's literally eating of the poor, right? Versus just like we're all so buttoned up, like if we fucked a little bit, everything would just full panic, full chaos. Do we
For
want to talk about the Spampires? I think we all kind of are already operating because we're all like in these modes of kind of cultural bubbles and like the stuff that we like. Is it something that we just, for the sake of it, want to be explicit and talk about Spampire subtext?
I will say that we should take caution because we're presenting them as, new species to the planet, so they have
Mm.
immigrated, and we should be respectful of that with
Mm.
how we present that,
Ooh.
regardless of how it could be perceived otherwise. Um,
Yeah. Yes,
I
a
Or
say this
good
because
note.
there's a large amount of white on the screen. I'm not going to deny that. Like, I want to be cognizant of any like steps in that way because that is a very valid way of portraying them because it could be a false horror. You know what I mean? Vampires aren't actually bad. They're perceived as that because of the people being afraid of their own livelihood being threatened. But what they really need is to learn to accept and work together with the vampires and move forward.
I
Is I think a totally valid read.
I think in our framing, the vampires are not attacking, right? Like they're just here because your son's dying. They didn't kill your son. They were very patient and polite. They waited to be invited cosmically. Okay. Which is, by the way, the vampire myth when you expand it to space, they have to be invited in, but they get invited in by the star, not by you. Um,
I
so,
okay. I was gonna ask that question, but did you just answer it? Like, why are the Spampires here? Being this like big question. Do they come
mm,
when your star starts dying? Is that what brings
mhm.
the Spampires?
So I think,
Makes sense.
yeah, I think so. And so they have this like harbinger role
Hell
because I
yeah.
think they might even know before you. And they're like, "Hey, we're just gonna start decorating." Like, don't worry about it. But I think the great fear here is you have this like group of people-ish aliens who will outlast you, who can survive in conditions that you can't. And I think that's like the big fear, really, in this framing. It's not talking about any specific social mores in the same way.
Mhm.
Um, Although, I will say, if we're gonna talk about the rich, there is a thing about, like, certain people are able to survive circumstances that other people aren't, and a lot of it is
Mm-hmm.
so I think there could still be a little bit of a aristocracy element to this, but I really think for this, it's just, like, the inherent fear of that this place wasn't actually made for humans. It just
Yeah.
exists, and we
I, I
happen to be here.
I think that actually very interesting parallel, like you said, is the evolution stage. Because like if you think about Neanderthals and humans, the Homo sapiens and everything, interbreeding,
Mhm.
there were just evolutionary advantages. Like the planet was not necessarily always accepting towards Neanderthal like genetics and
Hmm.
shit. So they, to a degree, had to accept what they had to do in order to move their lines forward, which involved fucking a lot of people, basically.
Um, Interstellar.
Yes.
I saw this movie, and then there's a whole thing where they're like, not to spoil Interstellar for you, but like, okay,
Actually.
where they're trying to bring their like fetus embryos or whatever to another planet to like make
Hmm.
humans happen. stop trying to make humans happen. um but I like the idea that like humanity has multiple strategies that they've outlined to survive, and when you finish that world building, like when you finish the game is when you've picked your strategy, and one of the strategies is they kiss, and I think they like interbreed with the vampires and make like a whole new thing, which is like the evolutionary strategy. They compete, they fight the vampires and they all go down or whatever. Or they come up with a plan to move to another planet.
Like asking the vampires who can tell which stars are dying to find a place for them to go and going there.
Yeah.
That's all very interesting.
Like, do you have an avoidant personality or
Yeah, maybe that's the character sheet, is you like plot out how
Yeah.
you deal with the vampires, like, and then also like assuming there's like a counter vampire personality, and it's like the kind of vampire that appeals to you. In terms of plotting out the vampires and what they represent, which I think is just playing in more to like the world building, and then therefore like how we're going to be building out the chassis of the game. I think that I certainly have a certain assumption about vampires, unless you specifically go and say they're not like 3 Days of Night, where they're just sort of like horrible monsters, that they are sort of aristocratic as a default. And so if the normal world, as it were, of the setting is humans are existing on a planet, they may or may not know that their planet is dying, but then these vampires come and they want certain things or they have certain information, right? This is a very Twilight Zone-y kind of premise.
Mhm.
But for me, it's the idea of like, is there a canonical ask immediately? Is that something where in the initial world building you figure it out? What is this relationship? Like, they are harbingers of a certain kind. Is that something that we want to figure out or have as a simple premise? And then that allows for the moments in which we're kissing or not kissing and whatever the stakes are. But I think all of these questions about it's immigrants or it's eat the poor or yes or no, I think we can kind of establish by kind of cutting it off at the pass about what our vampires are like here doing the stuff that we have in our head right now, because I clearly know
Mhm.
that everyone is kind of building this mythology that we haven't even talked about. So where's everybody's heads at with that stuff?
So I think that actually starting it like in media res is good. Like
Yeah.
the like starting at the inception, I think can make you like have too much time
Hmm.
almost before you can get to a real point of change. Um, and that's just my personal preference. And especially in this instance, I think it would be interesting to start as in like, so you are, either one of the people or one of the vampire maybe is like your choice at the start of play. And then the answer you're looking for is like, are you going to stay on the planet and get the vampire's kiss? Are you going to, take the trip to another sun and hope that they're being true to you and that it really isn't going to die right then? And they're just going to come there too. And otherwise, you're going to fight them and try and like, do this in a way that ends both of your lines. Like, is that's what's going to be the choice. That's what it
Mm.
feels like would be really like a dynamic moment of like, you have to start making these decisions literally as soon as you get the premise. You don't have a lot of time to think because there's not a lot of time to think in those kinds of situations. Theoretically, with vampires from space.
Theoretically with Vampires from Space, another great title that maybe next episode we will delve into. You have to stay tuned and come to the Patreon. And where is your head at in terms of like specifically what the vampires represent and like their goals and the stuff that we can maybe distill? Because I think we're about 5 to 10 minutes away from me starting to like
Hammer things.
present some like structural stuff, and then we'll go
I
to break.
I think the idea of having like, I like the idea of leaving it a little like, we don't like, I don't want us to know whether the vampires are trustworthy or not.
Totally.
Like, I don't want it to be in the text that they are benevolent. I want them to be quite mysterious,
Oh
and then
yeah,
the
of
game
course.
reveals whether or not they were lying to you. Maybe your son would have recovered. Like, you don't I think that the game you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they're actually these, like, completely benign creatures who just, like, happen to eat stuff with their fangs, but, like, that's hot, so that's fine. Um, And I think that the gameplay, like I like the idea what Beau said of like having a player represent like the vampires, or maybe it's not, maybe it's like some other like Ouija board style thing that like changes the vampires' motivations like as we do stuff or use a random mechanic or something like that to nudge things around.
Like an oracle or something that would pull out like different perspectives. A tarot deck might actually be really handy for that kind of thing because like my tote deck would be perfect for like vampires in my opinion. Like it's very weird and moody and stuff. So that could be a fun oracle stuff like
Got a
option.
mushroom tarot deck right here for you.
Amazing.
I'm ready.
So what I'm feeling like is
yeah.
the game is roughly in like 3 parts. You have the setup, which is like some questions that are like plugged in about establishing canon with the group, and having these dramatic questions, like the big ones that can be kind of filtered from that. And then the middle bit is like either having decisions that push things along, and then playing out like a certain number of scenes or making these kind of like do they kiss moments. And then based on that stuff, I think that the outro, the like final sections, there can be an option for, open questions or like set questions, which is like, did the vampires, were they benevolent? And that being an open question to like one player answers or something and be like, what do they want all along? Another player answers or something, because it's this sort of like for the queen thing where you're playing and you're answering, and even though you're not being asked to internally, you're starting to make this stuff happen. And so that like I'm imagining the experience at the table in this final section is these questions coming, and then one person gives the answer, and everyone goes, "Oh!" Right? Because they're like, "Oh, that's what they meant all along." Actually, the vampires, they were mushrooms. They were actually stars themselves. Their hearts were stars. Someone's like, "What the fuck?" Like, I feel like this is emotionally resonant for me at the moment.
I just
Attention, Soapbox. You are 30 minutes in. You have 30 minutes left.
So the vampires are coming. So
sorry, I
that's
just
the
want to
other
say
thing.
hi to chat. Hello, we just got a big raid. So welcome, friends from Joe Cat. And I just want to say, if you're very confused, we have to design a whole game right now. And we're in the thick of space vampires. Okay. So
Vampires.
welcome aboard. Welcome aboard, friends. Okay, let's go. Back in it. Sorry. Locked in.
So first part setup, second part, whatever the mechanisms are, feeling like we're going tarot, which is great. I will have to lean on the two of you to help me out in that aspect, in terms of like the randomization and what you can use right outside of it. And then some kind of like outro, like, okay, we've now reached whatever this point is. It could be like a time limit in terms of the game, like a generation has passed, or this point of no return has occurred, and then the outro questions where we get to reveal that actually the vampires, their hearts were undying stars the whole time or something, right?
I think you could use card pools for Tarot Oracle as a pacing mechanism for the game,
Cool.
for like the vignettes. Like, so I'm using vignettes as a term, but what I mean is like the moments whenever you have the like intimate moments and stuff like
a
that.
decision point or a scene.
Yeah, like the decision points. So
yeah.
like pull out at the beginning of setup how many cards you want to pull for how long you want the game to be, and
Great.
as each one is revealed, like it could tell like how the response is to that event that happened, or how the characters are feeling at that point in time could be influenced by that oracle being pulled. And that way there's a controlled limiter on how long the game is,
Great.
with like a minimum of like maybe like 3 cards, and then up to however many, because then it kind of makes the tarot card like deck feel more purposeful, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I have this deck that's only the major arcana, so it's 22 cards,
That
which
would
I
be
think
awesome.
is good. And I like the idea that what if the game is essentially 22 prompts or questions, and then each card steers the answer. And then also it comes as a thing where it's like if you're getting near the game and no one's pulled the death card, like or there's one that's the star.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think maybe these have like meanings.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it is kind of like oh shit, this hasn't come up, or this came up early, which means like, and like whatever the last card is determines like how this ends, which depending on how well you know your tarot, you'll start to like get some like.
What if hypothetically, and this is all hypothetical, you knew nothing about tarot. What would that do for you?
A lot of the cards have inspirational imagery, and there's also very short summaries. And you could
that
also
I
write,
like, right?
you could write like a short description of like, basically like if the star shows up, this is now the time when the star is dying. You have 2 cards left, or something like that. And like death is normally actually like not people dying. It's like a change of status. So it could be like the tables are turned. Like what you thought was normal is now the opposite, and you have to like go forward with that new knowledge, kind of thing.
And so there's 22 major arcanas. That's to my understanding? Because that's
there
what
are 22 in the major arcana. Yeah.
Okay. So if in the text, would that be if we're running on this, there's like 22 if then buts for each of the arcanas? Is it like the 3 to 5 card region that you were just pitching?
I think it would be reasonable to say that you could have up to 22, and then have like a bottom limiter for how many you should use at like the shortest like quick shot run, like one shot kind of run.
Yeah, I guess I'm asking 2 questions. One is like the pace of the game, which I love, right? Like the idea that you draw the cards. The other one is just that like there's a direct meaning for pulling each card. Oh, we've drawn the death. That means this thing. To me, that implies that I need like 21 other little things for all of those, unless it's just stars. But then if I only have 3 and I never pull the star, then that feels like I've left a lot on the table in terms of like what's there.
I would say like that there could be, you could either do it that you can interpret it like you interpret tarot, because there are guides for that everywhere, or you could have short sentences for all of them and just require that certain cards always be included. So the star must always be included. Pick your like draw 2 other face down cards. And shuffle them and put them down, kind of thing to start. And that way, like you have a guaranteed plot point that always is going to happen and does turn the tables, but you have a little bit of flexibility in how people approach it and what stories they can get and how repeated they can do, like how many times they can play the game over and over again and in what order. Because if you're only pulling a certain number of cards, you're going to get a different mix-up every time, and that can change the narrative dramatically.
I fucking love, and again, just like coming full circle, these happy accidents. This is why I am in love with game design. To have a death card and a star card like ties into our title. So
and
if you
a sun
have to have
card.
those, and then 3 to 5 others, like it's like we from the beginning we're planning we're going to use tarot. Like it's
really
it's
well.
too
It worked
good.
out really well.
It's too good.
There's also the world is one of the cards that I think we definitely want to include. There's also this one, which I just think is an absolute banger of a card, which is the tower, which means like a major institution falls and conflict breaks out, which is like that's just like what the card means typically. Like shit's fucked. And I'm like, there's straight up a shit's fucked card. Tarot's metal.
I want to push for only death and only star being required, and that the other section, like I love the planet, I love tower, like all that's great, but I feel like if we limit the ones that are required, it makes them that much more important and also sticks to our themes a little stronger.
I agree, and I think it will also produce a little bit more like narrative surprise for people that way, because with more random points but still some very limited guaranteed points, you're like, oh, I know this is eventually going to happen, but that's a lot that can happen otherwise, and it causes a lot of like bubbling up of anticipation, right?
Can I suggest a third card that has to be included, which is the lovers, because that's the do they kiss. I think if we were saying that like the ways if they make buds and then they kiss little, can that be one of them?
What if? What if?
Let me write my vampire smut. Okay.
What if the lovers is pulled if there is a kiss? Like it's a card set aside, and it gets pulled out specially and adds on to the other card that's pulled at the time.
Okay, because I was thinking the idea, I like it, is the way this whole situation resolves is by which of the cards comes first. Like no matter how many cards you have, these 2 cards, like if death comes first, it means you get the bad ending. If the star comes first, it means you get the good ending. And you won't know until it's pulled. Or you say no.
I'm thinking because if death gets pulled and you played the game before, then you're like, oh, we get the bad ending no matter what.
Yeah, I don't want it to be binary. I also like as someone who knows nothing about tarot, and also is excited for the idea of interpretation and emotional interpretation, and that being part of games like this, is having the help, but then the players being able to put the thing in. I don't really want there to be like good ending, bad ending. Because again, I like this idea of there being these open prompts that like one player will be able to answer at the end about the kind of stuff happening. I do like the point of the lover card or adding it, because the fundamentally, right? Like there's all this noise that we're kind of throwing down, and at the core of it is like, is there a kiss? It seems to be like the singular moment in which everything else is kind of orbiting.
Yeah, and I like the idea that could happen in any of the situations with any of the cards, but then have the lover be one that you like literally find in the deck and put there and be like, no, this like is also part of what's happening here. It's going to change everything that happens from this point out. And it becomes like an overarching theme of like love and hope if it succeeds or something like that.
Love and hope.
Is that not tragic enough? I like hope because sometimes it can be dashed in very heartfelt ways.
No. My only question, and I want Anne to talk about it, was again, how much of these meanings are front loaded, and then how much of it are being just in the text, and then how much are the players able to like add their own?
As I love a writing prompt game, love it. I am an absolute slut for a solo RPG journaling game. And so I like it when I think that maybe this isn't super, or it's front loaded as like leading questions.
Yeah.
Like you draw a card, you draw the tower, a major institution has fallen. It upsets your society in a way that from which they could never recover. What is it? Like that kind of stuff, I think is really fun, rather than us saying, I don't know if we need to say even very much in the text, right?
Yeah, I agree with that entirely. I would keep it to like a sentence, maybe at most.
Per arcana, or what are we talking about?
Per card, yeah, per arcana card. And some of them will be the same, but what I would do to change it so it's different between each is have a couple of keyword tags. Because that's really common in tarot. Most people who know tarot will be familiar with it. They're easy to guess from the imagery, right? So it would be like, if you have the lovers, the card like tags could be like hope and change and trust or something like that. Or have like one that's more negative, right? Like this like betrayal or something like as an option. And that way the players can use that to answer like the question. And you could have the same question for a bunch of the cards that's like, something has happened in however we want to phrase that, and like how does the world react, and let them pull that from the card imagery and the tags, because that's even something you could pull from a tarot website, like tags literally easily to populate that kind of thing. So I think it's very simple and approachable because most people would easily guess them from looking at the cards.
Okay, so you're saying the cards don't present the questions. The questions are preset. The cards present the answers.
Yes, they present how you interpret the answers.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I'm with it.
Does that make sense, Graham? I don't know if I'm being clear, and I apologize.
You're being very clear, and I'm taking notes, and I'm thinking about how to engage the next level of making this structure work. What were you saying, Anne?
A ghost in chat asked, is there going to be different mechanics? Like if when we're answering the question, we draw the card upright versus upside down? Or is that, I think maybe that's too much complexity for us. And also very important, there is no up in space.
Is that what chat said?
Yeah, that's not me. I'm not that clever.
That's very funny.
Very good.
I think I think we're going to steal that. And I think we're going to put that in the text, is like one line about when you draw the cards, or like establish what the cards are going to be during setup, like acknowledging the like inverted stuff, because even my lack of knowledge of tarot, I know that's a thing. Like have a line about like up or down doesn't matter because there's no up or down, it's base. Like that's great. Thanks, chat. It's going in the rules.
I appreciate pointing that out, because like trying to read up or down tarot cards whenever you're sitting at opposite ends of a table can be very confusing. And I hate it. So
here's what I'm thinking. in terms of our beginning, middle, end structure, and feel free to adjust or add or question, because I think if we can all agree on this roughly, it's the perfect break time, and then we're gonna come back and summarize and then try it out. If only we had some tarot cards somewhere. So in the beginning, I think that the beginning is essentially like a solo journaling game that like each player is kind of taking a piece of, and you're establishing like canonical stuff about the vampires, about the broad rules, the public rules, and then like a couple broad mysteries, things that like nobody really knows the answer to. But giving this feel like what is the base information, and then like the open-ended question that we're going to be messing with, and then in the middle there, you set aside the death card and the star card, and then X number gets kind of like just shuffled in, and then do you draw out? I mean, it's such a small detail, but now I want to open it up to the floor. Are you asked to pull out the lover and put it aside, or you have to dig through the deck and find the lover if that thing happens? Like, what's more interesting in terms of a tactile
I think
ritual?
that you set it aside at the beginning of
Yeah.
like drawing the cards for the board,
Mm-hmm.
and then you shuffle it back into the remaining cards that you can then search through it to get it from, but it has to be shuffled in.
Hmm.
It's a procedural ritualistic thing. I'm sorry, like because
No, 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 no.
like
I am obsessed with proceduralist ritual.
like
That's what games are, and that's what role playing games are.
I like the idea of pulling it out before you do the other cards to make sure that it is instead an added in thing that is like an overarching the game sort of thing, right? And it's not just randomly coming up. But
So yeah,
then
so
having
I
to
know.
get through the shuffled deck makes it feel like you're like, now we have to actually work to like pull this out and have this result. And
Right.
that feels nice to me. So that's my suggestion.
When it occurs. So like at the moment it occurs, you then have to then leave and go find it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was misunderstanding for a second, but I can agree completely. That was also my idea.
Okay.
So we in this middle section, there's a set number of cards, and that we're using tarot or like a mechanism of interpretation to kind of create this story. I don't know exactly at what point the loving kiss decides. Maybe that's player. We'll get there in a second, but there is some kind of establishment for this section needs to be over. So either like you've drawn both die and end star or something. And then the end is again this like we're around the campfire again, right? You're kind of like returning to the solo journaling game part, and there are set questions that people need to answer, and like one person does, like what do the vampires want all along, or like will humanity survive, and then like something. How do people feel about that, broad strokes?
That sounds good to me.
Attention, Soapbox. Your design son will be dying in 15 minutes.
Oh
Hell
no.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
scared. Okay. The one caveat I want to
Yes.
ask is because right now all three of those seem really similar to me. They're all like journaling prompts that are answered. I like what if the first section is like roll table style a little bit more, and then after that there's a randomly generated part of it that the rest of it riffs off of.
I don't know the
Or
term roll table, just clarifying.
Like a random table.
like a random
Okay.
table, like,
Okay.
or something like that, like, or even just, like, picking from a list or something, or even if you're using the tarot to, like, select from our preset options so that you have something. Because I don't like the blank canvas thing so much, even with the prompts. Yeah.
What if each player gets one, like that's participating, gets one tarot card that's like one of the overarching like narrative elements? So like the world, the star, the death card, the lovers, and then like one or two others. So like that's their like guiding theme that they answer questions about. So like
And
one
is it like
person would.
always in front of them for the whole game, do you think, or just in like the
I
first?
don't think just in the first one. I think then it
Okay.
goes to be shuffled back in. I think it's just to like do the setup part where it's like, okay, so you get to describe our star and what it looks like and what it does and how long it has left. And
Yes!
that's something that could be disrupted and changed. I think that would be really cool, and it integrates the cards earlier in as well.
I'm obsessed with that, and then the person who has the world, they're like, "What is the state of the world,
Yes.
right before the sun started dying?
Hmm.
And then what was the initial reaction once they realized, uh, this was happening. And then the person who has death could be like, what happened when the vampires arrived? Is their question. Like they are death. Essentially, they represent death. They're harbingers of death. They are undead. And so it's like their question is like, what happened? And so we have this like, because that way we could do it where you could be anything. Like it doesn't have to be really our world. It doesn't be a modern world. It could be a futuristic sci-fi world. It could be
Yeah.
in the past. It could be an alternate reality. And I think the world person has so much power there.
Yeah.
And then that's really fun. I like that. And then the sun person, the person who has the star, could be like they could be like, we're in another cosmos, baby. We could be like, this sun is like, it's different here. Like I think that's really fun.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good way to give like the world a lot of narrative richness and give people a little bit of control over the narrative too, which feels like exciting to a lot of people to get to like, I decided what this was, so like I kind of care about that, or I can like completely ignore it and let the other players play with it while I focus on like the story part that I like. I think that
Also,
can be really exciting.
great for setting the tone too, because I've definitely played like I think of like the Quiet Year or whatever. I've played games where we did it so zany, ham-fisted, silly times. And if someone says our son is it's Superman and he's flying around real fast, then you know what kind of game you're gonna play. And I think that's a really fun way to set it.
Mhm.
I gotta say, Anne, I think like the vast majority of the Quiet Year games I've had always end up goofy.
Mine are so fucking sad, bro.
They're
They're so
so
sad.
dark. I don't even like playing it anymore because it's so depressing. Like,
Okay, can someone with a tarot deck just whip through them and tell me what these arcanas are?
Okay.
Uh,
In no particular order, we
yes,
got the Hierophant, Pope card.
Pope.
Pope.
yeah.
Well, we gotta have a
Cath-
space Pope. Go on, we have 21
Space
more.
Pope. What does Space Pope do? The Emperor,
Uh-huh.
the Monarch, okay? The Magician, the cheeky little trickster. Well, not there's a cheekier trickster. The Empress, the less shitty monarch. The High Priestess, Girl Pope. The Chariot. I got a fast car. It's a bunch of horses on a boat. The Moon. That's where the werewolves are. Temperance. Drinking booze, party times. Star. We got that one. Hermit. Sad lonely boy. The Fool. That's our whimsical little lad. The Fool. Judgment. This is like Judgment Day, rapture shit. Strength. Strong. It's usually a lion. Death. Look at this creepy little lad. Skinny queen. Justice. The Hanged Man. But he's
That's my boy.
he's like a silly little lad.
You got him right here.
Oh my god.
Yay!
The World. The Devil. The Lovers. The Tower, which is my favorite, which is this fucker, which is like, you're so cooked, bro. That's what that one is. And then the Sun and the Wheel, which is like the Wheel of Fortune, the Wheel of Time. Okay. So I hope you see the themes. We've got like some that are specific social roles, and some that are like the cosmos, which I think is perfect for our space theme. And then some that are just like, I don't know, a little more abstract.
I
Because
love
like it's funny.
abstract. Fan of abstract, but then also like anything can be abstract. Like, you know, Hierophant, Space Pope, like that could. I like the filtering of interpretation and that being an option for people. Okay, so if where we're at for the opening is that key cards are questions that a particular player will answer. The world is about like the state of the world. The death card is about the vampires themselves. Again, I like all of these having a very pointed kind of world building question. So the death card is like, what is unique about the vampires? Like, so there where you're like always building, that people have the choice over this canon thing. Yes, you in the front with the mushrooms.
I was saying what's unique about the vampires. It's like, what is something about the vampires that we never imagined in all our stories?
Sure.
I think is very fun.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's a good one for the like, they are the death of humans, of humanity. So how are they that? Is it just the dying star? Is there more than that? That's a good way for people to explore that card, I think. Because people
Okay.
could choose for them to be vegetarian if they wanted. Like that wouldn't hurt anything. They're just
Absolutely, and I want that to be an option somehow, and we're like figuring that out. Like, how do you
Maybe
give
that's
these
the
prompts?
closing question. Was like, because we were saying at the end was like, what
Yeah.
was their real motivation?
Right.
Maybe whatever role do you play? Like, I think it rotates for the closing sequence or something, and
Yeah.
you have to answer. Somebody else answers like, death. How were they actually death to us? Is the closing question.
fair.
Okay, so for me, the cards that stood out of this like set for what might be the beginning of the end, love the
Mhm.
potential framing
Mhm.
and mirroring that can occur there. Star, Death, Moon, Hanged Man, World, Lovers. Are there? And you like Tower, right? Like you're shouting out Tower.
Okay, I
Are
don't
there?
think that's an ending card though. I think that's a in the progress because it's
Okay,
like
all right.
I love the prompt a major
Heard,
institution falls. I think that's fucking banger prompt.
heard. Um, in general, are there other of these 22 that really stand out to either one of you that feel like they should be drawn from the pool for beginning and end? I'm imagining like play with 3 to 5 players, and each player gets one card. Um,
I think that having justice as one of the cards,
Sick.
especially to have it as instead a shared group card to answer, like
Mm.
everybody contributes one, pass it around kind of thing, would be really cool. Because this would be the one that I would suggest saying, like, at the beginning, what do each side want out of this? Like, what would be justice to the vampires, to the humans? What would be the right thing? What would be justice? And then change to answering those same questions at the end.
It's a fantastic framing and a really good idea. I like again the separation we have of these different cards being individual and then something else being shared. For me, the difficulty is how you decide that in a shared space, but then also if you decide up top like what is justice and what do they want, a lot of the mystery gets kind of like taken out because I want that to be this uneasy alliance. When you have families and politics and secrets, like knowing what motives are is like such a huge part of how those things boil over. You're like,
That's
oh, they
a
want
closer.
that's a closer. They want
Yeah.
humanity. They want blood. They want our souls. Maybe they just
Or
want a kiss.
kisses.
Maybe they just want
Yeah.
a kiss.
I think I was figuring it more as like everybody's kind of guessing. That's why everybody gets to contribute an answer.
Cool.
And so it's
Oh.
actually like to make it worse. It's like I'm thinking of like the gossip phase in turn, where everybody kind of like says a rumor that they hear, and then people try to either like
Right.
move towards that or move away from it. Except it's with literally the decision of whether the species survives. And I think that's really mean but fun.
That's fire. I love the like anti-canonical thing, or like everybody say one thing that may or may not be true, and they could be contradictory in some way.
Yes.
Is that how we end? So like everyone gets one card, and this is in the setup because that then breeds the like distrust and the mystery
Yes.
and stuff, and that can lead straight into like the meat of the game.
I think that sounds awesome.
Sick. Okay.
Soapbox self-destructing in 5 minutes.
Hell yeah. I think we might jump ahead of this. Okay, so we basically just need prompts for the Arcanas, which is fine. This is something we can workshop on the way. Questions initially, and then Star, Moon, Hangman, World, Lovers, and then end with Justice. I guess my only question here before my only clarity that I need from the group is about how the lovers gets placed in the middle. What is the trigger or the moment? Is it just any player calls for it? You're like, this is it. This is the kiss. This is the
think
meeting
that's exactly
of the teams. Like it just has to be that thing. Like it's like a natural occurrence or something.
I think so. I think it has to be like a player's like, I think this is the kiss. I think a kiss is going to happen. And like if everybody agrees to put the card down, you put the card down.
Yeah.
I think that actually makes it so the players have a lot of narrative control over whether that gets engaged in case they want to explore something more complex like a betrayal or something like that instead of a kiss, right? So like they could call it and be like, yeah, I want to do the kiss, and people could be like, wait though, like I don't want to do that part, like, and give it some like control over who gets to execute it and when that way.
Absolutely.
So there's one card called Judgment, which is like Judgment Day, which I think the idea of having Justice or Judgment as the closer card that is randomly selected is very interesting because they're very similar. They're very similar, just a different nuance. And I don't even think we have to define it.
I think if we started with Justice and end with Judgment, that would be fine.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Especially because again, I love mirroring and parallels and all of that. And I think our game is full of them, right? Like in and out for all these rituals. Okay, cool.
Okay.
That sounds great. And Beau, Ghost, Spampire in the Sky. Are you ready to go to break?
Oh God. Okay, wait. I just have one more question, which is like the mid phase. Is that's where we do the prompts and the drawing cards, right?
Yeah. And we'll throw a little stank on it in the middle, and we'll figure out exactly what that is beyond like some rituals and a few mechanisms you can choose about like what those mean. Yeah.
Guys,
basically,
I think this fucks. I think this is sick as hell.
I think this kisses.
I think this kisses vampires. Okay, well, shoot. On that note, let's take 5. Give
10.
10. Yeah, let's take 10. Give everyone a chance to hydrate and give Graham a chance to type furiously. And then we're gonna come back and we're gonna play this fucking game. We're gonna play this. This is gonna be the first AP of our game, which is Under the Sign of a Dying Star. Whew. And so, Ghost, can you take us out? Bye.
Guess I wasn't thinking.
You weren't thinking? You mean you'll work on engines and machinery and not think of your own personal safety? Here, shake hands with danger. it bumped that control by accident? You'd be mincemeat by now. What have I told you?
All right, I guess I wasn't thinking.
You weren't thinking? You mean you'll work on engines and machinery and not think of your own personal safety? Here, shake hands with danger. Mincemeat by now. What have I told you?
All right, I guess I wasn't thinking.
You weren't thinking? You mean you'll work on engines and machinery and not think of your own personal safety? Here, shake hands with danger. Bumped that control by accident. You'd be mincemeat by now. What have I told you?
All right, I guess I wasn't thinking.
You weren't thinking? You mean you'll work on engines and hands with danger. By now. What have I told you?
All right, I guess I wasn't thinking.
You weren't thinking. You mean you'll work on engines and machinery and not think of your own personal safety? Here, shake hands with danger. Bumped that control by accident. You'd be mincemeat by now. What have I told you?
All right, I guess I wasn't thinking.
You weren't thinking. You mean you'll work on engines and machinery and not think of your own personal safety? Here, shake hands with danger.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I missed you so much. I hope you had a nice time. It's time to play the world's first playthrough of Under the Sun of a Dying Star.
Under a star of a dying sun star.
Under the sky,
sign of a dying star.
underneath a
killing
space
me.
vampire because they're atop, which is our space vampire apocalypse game that we made right now with you. Okay, Graham, do you want to steer us on this road?
I sure do. Welcome to the world of space vampires, colloquially known as vampires. Under the sign of the dying star. It is a collaborative storytelling game. Shocker. 3 phases. The first in which the players will draw set tarot cards. We'll answer. We will world build. We're going to do a short game, which means that you have to take in the middle the star card, set it aside. The death card, set it aside. We're going to draw 3 random cards. But now, for our opening, we need the... We need the world, star, death, hanged man, and lovers. And there's 3 of us. So I think, Anne, you're going to get 3 cards, and you're going to like hold it up to your camera. And that's how we're going to do that.
Okay. World, death, hangman, lovers. And do we use a sun or the star? We use the star.
Star. Always star.
Always star. What's a sun? Never heard of her.
I know. This is going to be great. This for me is going to add some real themes.
All right. So the first question the first is the world.
Great. I like the idea that players take it, so I will volunteer as tribute. What was the world like before the end came? This was the absolute peak of technology. We're talking like space elevators. We're talking about skyscrapers going far into the sky. We're talking about a nigh post-human existence. Not necessarily dystopian, not necessarily utopian, but certainly starting to get to the point in which technology is so advanced and society is so different that we hardly even recognize it. Sky cities and great advancements. This is the world in which it is set. Go ahead and take another random card. Anne or Beau, who wants to go next?
I can go next.
Yeah. All right. Shuffle, 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 and have a card up to the camera. And Beau will answer our next world establishing questions about the vampires.
Hanged man. What is humanity's biggest obstacle for surviving this?
I think that we became such a technologically advanced society that we thought that no one really could outlive us to a degree. Like we expected to be able to fix our sun. We expected to be able to, just keep on going or move to another star. But it happened before we were ready. And our biggest actual obstacle is our own reliance on ourselves to the point that we refuse to ask for help.
Absolutely incredible.
Okay, the next card I pulled, which I guess is mine, is death.
Yeah.
Which feels appropriate.
What is our prompt for death, Anne?
What is something about the space vampires that we had never imagined in all our stories? I think that the vampires have a bunch of things. One, they're invisible in sunlight.
Great.
They can go in sunlight. They are invisible. They can only be seen in dark. Because that's cool. 2, they don't use any technology at all. They communicate telepathically. They seem to just they don't seem to have vehicles. They seem to just float where they want to go or just appear where they want to be. They definitely can eat people, though. They can drink blood to survive. But other than that, we didn't really get it right. So yeah, those are my things. Is they don't use any tech. They can levitate and float and sort of apparate, and that they're only visible in the dark, in shadow at night. They're invisible in sunlight.
Yeah, that's great. I in my head was already thinking about like in the final text, which will be available on Patreon. Whatever, like I love an opening monologue or short punchy sentences, just like as simply as possible, creating it, you know. And the thing about like the visitors came, maybe they were angels, but they were vampires or like whatever. And so the idea that you're like they ain't got no ships, they just kind of came from the sky, for sure starts to kind of blend these mythologies. I love it. Okay, so finally, the final step is justice, which each one of us is going to offer from any kind of perspective. You know, it could be in character or out of character as like some part of humanity. You can imagine yourself as a leader or as somebody whispering to somebody like in a back room somewhere. These answers can be contradictory. They don't necessarily have to build on each other. But the question is that you set aside justice, which is what is really going on? What do we think the vampires want? I think there is an immediate upswell. The kind of not majority opinion, but there's like a pretty strong idea that like, oh, this is it's biblical in nature. This is the rapture. We are ascending. We're removing our mortal coil. Humanity was on the cusp of these great things, but these harbingers, whether or not it's um, true or good by any stretch of the means, like they are the transformational salvation.
Okay, salvation. Option B, counter cult. Okay. They are not harbingers, they are hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And they are actually the ones extinguishing our star. That's what I heard. They seem to be able to just move around.
Yeah.
Why can't we see them in sunlight? That's weird.
That's so sketchy.
That's so suspicious of them.
Very,
Sounds like
very
somebody, they can
suspicious.
eat people. Maybe they can eat stars. Maybe
It's really good.
so.
I love space vampires that eat stars. That's so fucking awesome.
That's
Yeah,
so
I
cool.
think that's the other rumor is that they're hunters. They come here. They are eating our star, and then they will eat us, and that's when they can fully materialize in the night, and then they'll just eat us all.
I think that there is an entirely different faction that is completely of the opinion. This is like the actual factual, like the rapture. This is
For sure.
when we are devoured by the vampires, that is in fact us being taken up, and we should sacrifice ourselves to them.
Okay, this is very.
It's just like blood and body of Christ. Like
Yes,
we
yes.
will be eaten, and through that apotheosis.
Yes,
I
yes.
want to add to this that adding back to my death thing, the vampires, because this works with what Beau said. Listen, the vampires, they don't need to request permission to enter your home, but they do need to request permission to eat people, and that those people are like offering it up. They're like,
They're
here you
like,
go.
yes, please, yum. They're called the Yum Yum cult. Yeah.
They're the yum yum chomp
Perfect.
cult.
I just feel like it would happen. Like it just makes so much sense to me.
100%.
There's nothing so far that's even been remotely fantastical about our setting. In our Spampires.
The invisible floating vampires, no fantasy here. Well, the human death cult, yeah, that sounds legit.
Pretty legit.
I grew up in one basically, so yeah, I'm familiar.
And so here we go. We're making art that imitates life and vice versa.
Yes.
All right, so we move into the meat of the game, some kind of spampire, you know, like some kind of religious term, like a doctrine. We're gonna get into a doctrine.
Yeah.
And what I request is that you take the star card and the death card and set it aside, and then from the entirety of the deck, pull 3 random major arcanas and shuffle together. We're going to have 5.
Also, make sure to set aside the lovers if we need to, or if we want to pull it out whenever we shuffle it, pull it out of the mix.
I think if we didn't
whichever
use
you
the
prefer.
levers in part 1, we can leave them here.
I just wanted to make sure that we either pulled them out and shuffled them back in or left them in. Just wanted to make sure we were consistent.
Attention, Soapbox, you have been playing for 10 minutes.
Oh,
Hell yeah, we
God.
have. Thanks,
Okay.
Spampire.
I
I
got
don't know.
this.
I can't wait for the Spampire to eat us. Like, I
Yeah,
hear good
I'm
things
really-
are gonna happen.
I'm on Team Spampire.
I know you are.
Okay, we all knew that. All right.
Eat me. Yeah.
First one, the Hierophant, Space Pope.
Ooh.
Next,
Wait,
the Devil.
No. Are we
Oh,
trying it before?
Oh no. Okay, sorry. I thought you said do it all at once. Okay, no, just Space Pope.
Just Space
Space
Pope.
Pope it is.
Okay, so let me look here at our handy dandy sheet. Religious leader. Okay.
There
Yeah.
should be more there. I didn't.
No.
fully type that in.
This is. I always like. Okay, write text in 10 minutes. Thanks.
Yeah, this one's like about like tradition and ethics.
Okay.
Tradition and ethics. Okay, so I'm just going to openly narrate an event.
Okay.
I think we'll need different triggers. I think it's like narrate an event, ask a question, answer the question, something along these lines, or maybe like an interpretation. Like so we've already established a lot of traditions. And so, yeah, I think there is sort of this like second coming. I think that from the favelas of Brazil, there is someone who is given unfettered access to the space vampires for some reason, and no one's really sure why. The religions and the cults of the world are kind of infuriated by this, and no one really knows the nature of this relationship. I think that is my interpretation of this card.
I love this.
All right, so the other ideas I had, so like ask a question, answer a question,
What if they
establish a
chain?
truth. Yeah. Just in terms of like, something more interesting, like, I always worry about design creep or complexity creep, but the idea of like you draw a card and like, what does this mean? I just desire something a little more than that, but I'm aware that like we gotta just go.
Okay.
So I'm leaving that kind of open. You draw a card and you're like, I'm gonna do this, and we're gonna play hard and fast with it. Who wants to draw our next card?
I will go ahead and do that, I guess.
Okay. So the card, I drew the Hierophant again. Damn, he's just like
You gotta set
real
it aside.
eager.
Yeah, you gotta set aside the ones.
You gotta set it aside. We're establishing our like.
Or else we'll be haunted. By the
Oh
card.
shit. Okay, you're right. Okay, I'll do that. The next one is okay, get aside. The Sun.
Ooh,
Alright.
you got the sun, Beau. So according to this handy dandy thing, the sun, joy, success, regret.
I think that this is I'm trying to like think of this as like how it would show up as like a scene kind of
Totally.
for like a vignette or something like that. And
Yeah.
the way I read it with the tags and like the context here is that there is actually a successful plan to rejuvenate the sun. Like and
Humanity.
for humanity. Like they have a plan, and this is like a meeting where like a literal like they're like all the governments come together and they're like, we may have actually found a way to do this. But what actually ends up happening is that like in all of this success, they aren't careful enough, and word gets out. And like I envision the scene being like the moment somebody like gasses the entire room of all of the government officials and steals the data and takes it to the vampires instead.
Fuck yeah.
That feels like this moment of like elation, but then like crushing defeat, because our sun isn't alive, our star isn't alive, it's dying. And so like the sun card even coming up kind of feels like a little bit of a slap in the face.
For sure.
Like,
For
that's
sure.
how it feels to me in the context of what we're talking about. So
That's very good. All right, and
Okay. Fuck yeah. The tower.
I request the lovers be added.
You want me to draw the lovers instead?
No, you attach it. So
Yeah.
Okay.
this is my my idea that like at some point a player can be like, now
Now they
Yes.
kiss. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So
This is perfect.
you have to your prompt still deal or your question or whatever still has to deal with the tower. I mean, you got your boy the tower, but
My
now
boy. Now they gotta
the
kiss.
lovers are an integral part. So
That
Okay.
that
it's all
mechanic has
you.
got to be just the now kiss.
Now
That's
kiss.
what.
Okay, wait. Hold on. So, I'm gonna call him Space Pope, but this person who has unfettered access to the vampires. Was he involved in this? Like, I missed the beginning of what Beau said, where I want to make sure I didn't. Was Space Pope gender undefined?
Space Pope is not a world leader. Space Pope was a poor person from Brazil who didn't have any other
Was not involved with this
political
like
life.
government data.
No, it was not a
stuff
government
like
person. It was just like a person from Brazil.
that. Okay.
This is your moment, Anna.
Oh God, who gets to kiss? Okay.
It's a lot
So
of responsibility.
I mean, it's always possible that the person who did have the data could also have unfettered access to the vampires. And
It's true. It's true. There's no reason why,
thing.
and who's kissing?
Oh, they're all kissing each other. Okay. So first off, resolving the first card, which is the tower, which is the fall of the institutions. I think what happens is this like data gets out. I think the like straight up the government falls pretty quickly after that. But then also quite literally the space elevators fall. I think this is they like for reasons we don't know because hey, infrastructure requires maintenance, y'all. It goes down a lot faster than you think when no one's in charge. So I like the idea of these like points of connection, this like super high tech stuff. Like I think like a city falls out of the sky after the government collapses.
Nice.
And things like that. Like this level of collapse is happening and people are going from being afraid of the sun dying and the vampires to also just being afraid of like their society is collapsing right now immediately around them.
hmm
And then I think that's when we learn why this random poor person or poor man got unfettered access. I think he has some ability to communicate with like all humanity the way that the vampires communicate with each other and has like a broadcast ability. And so they've been trying to like form a relationship. They can telepath to telepath. This is number one rule of Star Trek, right? Telepaths can always clock another telepath. I think that's why. So I think that's why he's there. And I think that's this like special connection that he's formed with the vampires is he's like the only one who can really empathize with them because he's the one who can communicate with them on their level, which is why he thinks he's working for humanity while actually falling in love with a vampire.
Oh no!
Hot.
I mean, oh yay!
And they meet under the moon and kiss about it.
You have
So
5
now-
more minutes to kiss.
We have 5 more minutes to kiss. The spampires are gonna fucking eat us.
Okay, so now he's stuck between the vampires and his emotions there, and also the one person who can like rein in humanity from destroying itself before the sun destroys us.
Nice.
Great. Give me a card.
Oh God, I think that's one that's out of here. This one is the Empress. The Empress.
Okay, mother growth dependence. Okay, so from the fallen governments, I think there's a leader, the leader of the remnants of humanity arises. She gathers up the remaining human existence. She rallies them charismatically, and I think is doing some final charge into this vampires. It's kind of unclear if it's like military, if it's negotiation, if it's like gunboat diplomacy, where there's gonna this is the final meeting. This is going to establish it finally what the fate of humanity and the vampires are.
Does she agree with the telepath? Do they see eye to eye, or
I
are
don't
they in
know.
conflict?
I don't know. But I think that she represents the fragments of humanity in this final push for. I don't even want to editorialize that for what this is going to be, what this final meeting, what this final conflict will finally be decided.
I don't think you have to answer it. I think it's good to leave.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to. Bring us home, Beau. What's our last card?
Give me a card.
The last card, the Fool.
Fucking A. Okay.
So they charge into battle. It's this like glorious, actually like straight up fighting under the moon with the vampires thing. And this Empress, this figure, this maternal figure that we're all trusting to save us, basically, is fighting with one of like seriously badass like leadership vampires, one of the people who's like the most in charge, and realizes that she's not going to live. And he says, I could bite you. I could save you now. Just bring your people to me. We can be one people. And she's so desperate at that point. She's been suffering just like everyone else. She's seen her entire world fall to pieces, and she agrees.
And is everybody right now.
Oh my God. So the telepath is having his little side thing. He's becoming more alien from hanging out with them. Meanwhile, she literally just like bequeaths humanity to the vampires based off their word that they can transform us, which, by the way, I don't think we've seen evidence of yet. They just told us with their cool telepathic brain talk. Ugh.
But she does it. She's desperate. She has no other choice to save humanity. This is how they can all continue living according to what they're saying. And she doesn't know what else to do.
Okay,
yeah.
So real quick, and then we're gonna do our outro. So this is like mirroring the first opening, the opening ritual, which instead of these big offers, now this is like a single piece of the finale that you're going to have a piece of. Let's see if I can extradite this. I think it's just like.
So this is for you too, chat. This is your chance to give feedback on the game design.
If it's only world is only death. And then lovers. I mean, those are our core cards, right? I think that like if you get like it has to be those. Yes, you, the mushroom.
Thank you. Hi. I think that originally in our design, I have one small suggestion to change. I think that opening sequence, you should have to do all the cards, no matter how many players you have.
It sounds like feedback.
Is that what we're doing?
No.
Shit, I misunderstood. I thought this was a feedback session.
We have our like final like I mean
that
felt
God
so good.
told me we had 5 minutes. I was listening to God and not Graham. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
I fucked up. Okay, sorry.
It's easy to mistake us.
God is lying. God always lies.
Okay. Sorry.
So this is in which like this is the part of the story in which we pull back in like what did the vampires actually want all along, that kind of shit. So there's like 3 things that we are going to like answer with absolute authority. We've removed away the personal elements. This is like deciding what's going on, which I think broadly, I mean, is like the fate of humanity, the fate of the lovers, and the fate of the vampires. And what happens to the vampires? What did they want all along? What did they want all along? And what
did they want? And what did they get?
What did they want? What did they get? It's pretty good.
They wanted love and connection, but their version of love is a consumable resource.
Fire. Fire.
Love that.
Beau, what happens to humanity?
I think that humanity becomes effectively fuel for the vampires, but in doing so, some of them do get to live out much longer lives than they would have otherwise. And so some see it as a win.
And the final question, which is what happens to the lovers? I think that this final meeting of the vampire and the empress, they ascend to this like leadership role over the nomads. The vampires are so ancient that they've really lost the sense of what it means to have purpose or personhood, and so that is why they go to these long places. And so I think that this entrance of the Empress side by side with her lover means that they've given a little bit of this spark of what it means to be alive back into it, and they go to the next star that is, in fact, fully alive. There we go. That's how you play Under the Sign of the Dying Star.
Woo!
Now, Anne, we are going to have one quick round of feedback from yourself, from me, from Beau, which one each, something that you would change, something that you thought didn't go well, which is great, or something that you liked especially.
Okay.
Go. You go, because you had your thing.
Okay. One thing I want to change is I felt bummed out when we didn't get to answer all 5 questions at the intro. I think that they build on each other. I also think they go in a prescribed order. So I think instead of shuffling that, we start with we just do all those 5 questions in that order, and that's how it starts. And it's like we start on rails and then it gets real goosey after. That's my suggestion.
I do like how much there is. What I like about that, or the part of that ritual, is that a single player then gets like agency over that answer. So I guess you could like rotate or whatever, but then nobody would have theirs. Like there's ways to do that. I think it's very good feedback. Beau, how did you feel about what happened? What would you change? What went well or what didn't go well?
I actually think it went surprisingly well for the time period and the prep and everything.
Surprisingly.
I apologize for anyone who cannot read my captions. I do know what the hell has happened. It just totally died. I'm so sorry. I've tried to refresh it and open it like 30 times. Anyway, I think that like the biggest thing is I think that there needs to be some structure to the scenes for like just keeping people in order. Because like it can be a little challenging to like not just like who goes next, but like what am I even supposed to talk about? What's my range of possibility? Even just some general instruction that like you are now to zoom in onto an intimate scene. There can be many characters, but the characters that you talk about should be like just a few and like focus on their motivations and actions. Because I think that would make it a little bit easier to get people in context of what they're supposed to focus on during that part.
Fantastic feedback.
Adding to that, I think adding just like a line of like name your characters, because we didn't name them, and I wanted to know. I think that would have given it more zoom.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for a counterpoint, I love that we didn't name them because it felt no, it's not. I'm not saying that I disagree. I'm saying that like in that moment, I like not naming them because it felt mythological. It felt like archetypal, and it also allowed us to like lean into the tarot-ness, right? Like I just created this character and
sick. Yeah.
Right. And then like those mysteries. And again, like you have these details, but anything can be picked up. Like there's nothing in the text that says that like you could have then named the Empress and then Beau could have added more. Right. Like I think that that's the kind of game I would want to play.
Yeah.
So
okay, I like your thing more than my thing. So go with that.
my feedback is twofold in the sense that I think something went really well, and it's also what I would change. So my favorite moment of the game is when Beau drew the sun card, and then there was this extra level of emotional interpretation where the whole fucking game was about a dying sun, and drawing the sun card as hope added this level of irony, which we hadn't discussed before and was not part of the text. So and for me, that was such a huge part of what sort of defined the experience, or at least how the action would take place in terms of how you play the game. So what I would change or add is a mechanism or a contrast, like especially taking in Anne's feedback and also taking in Beau's in terms of how you add that structure. Like this is what we're doing and this is how you have it. Like if you're looking for these contrasts or something, just a tiny bit more in order to allow that stuff to happen. Because Beau did that naturally, which is great. And I want players to be able to do that too and be like, actually something outside of the confines of the text is a tyrant, is something very beneficial to how the game can be owned by the players. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
amazing. I think that's it. Anne?
Holy smokes, guys. That's real. We made a game. There is a document that we can see. You can't see it yet. But if you're interested in seeing it, if you subscribe on our Patreon, you'll get a copy of this game and the last game we made and all the future games. And as a super fun bonus, if you're like, hey, I didn't like Under the Sign of the Dying Star. I wish this game was called Boink and Space Vampires. Well, you know what? You can submit that as a prompt, and maybe the next game will be Boink and Space Vampires. It's all on the Patreon, my sweet, sweet friends. And that's where this game will be posted. On that note, I can't believe this worked. That was so much fun. I'm obsessed with these little guys we've created. I want to play the full game. I want to sit down for like an hour and hash out all the details of this story. Whew. And I guess we don't have time though. That's the whole premise of this show. We play test fast and then we create something beautiful and then we give it to the world for them to play. So now we will do our sign-offs instead. I'm Anne. If you made it here, you likely know I'm a TTRPG creator and designer question mark? I don't know. We'll see. And my co-host here is Graham. Graham, who the heck are you?
Hi, I'm Graham Gens. I use he and they pronouns. I'm a game designer facilitator, and very happy to be 1/3 of this lovely show. And so excited we got to do it with Beau Sheldon.
I'm here still.
Beau's here.
Yes, this was wonderful though, and I really thought that it was a fantastic time. And it reminds me of a very important lesson I learned in game design, which is that 90% of game design is going to be on the back end. It's not just the ideas, the quick moments when you really feel like something is like sticking. It's the work you put in to make it what you want it to be. And I love seeing people get to do that both on screen and off. And this is a great example of just showing people how you can do it so easily and so hardly. And that's so good, you know?
Getting it from idea to game, like that process is still completely mystical to me, but slowly being demystified. And a huge shout out to the unseen entity who makes this all
The
happen.
Spampire?
The Spampire in our hearts, our tech producer, Jen, who's hiding in the rafters. And thank you, Jen. And on
Do
that
not
note,
perceive
we
me.
will- received and I liked it. On that note, we will see you all next time. Goodbye.